Good morning. We'll see how this goes today. My premise is that how do we make God laugh is a lot of people do it constantly, yes. But let's flip it for the beginning of the talk here, and I submit to each and every one of you that God has a sense of humor. Now, Joseph, how else could you explain the platypus? Now, how else could you explain the proboscis monkey? I'm sure there's a reason, but in the overall scheme of life, we may not understand. We may not understand why, even though there's probably scientists around at some university getting grants to figure it all out. But why? Do we need to actually figure it out? No. We learn in science that underlying everything within the universe are comprised of molecules and atoms. And there are various subparts like the protons and the electrons and neutrons. And believe it or not, there are even single atom substances and things like noble gases and ions. Now, my point with this is that within the universe, within the totality of the universe, there's an energy. There is a force, a structure that provides context. The order in which matter or substance exists. What is it that keeps that structure of these atoms together to form the molecules? What is this energy, this force? We have to understand that the order of the universe is higher than man and mankind. We can think of these things. We can try to understand them, but it's very difficult. Just like it's difficult to understand why the proboscis monkey looks like Jimmy Durante gone bad. For those of you who remember Jimmy Durante. Now, in our human form, we, as human beings, interact with this order. How do we interact? We have free will. And free will is the idea, the concept, and as Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore identifies will, it is what makes humans not automatons. And it also identifies that within the order of the universe, it's not preordained. Our destiny is not preordained because we have free will. Now, sometimes our free will aligns with that divine order. It does. But then, sometimes our will does not align with divine order. And the result of this struggle of our will with divine order, it is a struggle. Because we come in conflict with ourselves. We come in conflict with what's happening in the world. We come in conflict with what should be happening. When two or more are gathered. And it's not about prayer. And each of our wills are not in the same alignment. We have chaos. We have chaos. Last weekend, my wife Barbara and I went to an international fest at Port St. Lucie. It was a day of celebrating cultures from around the world. It was quite lovely. It kind of rained a little bit, but we got to see, there were food trucks from the four corners of the earth. Germany, Brazil, Japan, a lot of good stuff. Yes, a lot of good stuff. They had a lion dance that came in off the stage, and they came in through the audience, and it was phenomenal. And they had taiko drumming, and they came through the audience, and they performed. There were bagpipers there. They had other dancers from other parts of the country, or other parts of the world. And it was a wonderful conglomeration of what's good on earth, except for the audience. Barbara and I were sitting at a table that was under a canopy, and we were enjoying being able to see the stage up front and enjoying the dancers and the drummers and things, and we were enjoying ourselves. And then directly in front of us, there were a family that came in and were directly in front of us, and they were waving to their friends to let them know where they were. So the will that Barbara and I of enjoying these performances combined against their will to let their friends know where they were sitting were in conflict. Now, could I have resolved that very easily by getting up and reminding them that there were people behind them? I thought about it. Then I thought, let's just go move. It was easier, and it reminded me about me versus them, and my will versus their will, and what was the best possible outcome, that everything would be in divine order. Because they had their desire to sit with their friends and enjoy the same thing that we were. Charles Fillmore, in The Revealing Word, writes, "Order is the idea of adjustment. And as this is established in a person's thought, their affairs will be at one with universal harmony." Order is the idea of adjustment. And as we establish that thought in our own minds, our affairs are in alignment. Now, you may remember my lesson from several weeks ago about about understanding, where Charles Fillmore writes that there are two ways of getting understanding: connecting with spiritual guidance that dwells within each one of us all the time, or through hard experience. Through hard experience. And what that is when we understand, when we get that idea of adjustment, when we get that establishment of thought within our minds, we have the understanding that order works. Order is harmony. Order is the way the universe functions. Reverend Dr. Paul Hasselbeck suggests that the power of order is our ability to sequence, organize, adjust, and be flexible. The way in which we adjust our thinking and even sequencing our thoughts and things is through our use of implementation of the law of divine order. This is the way each one of us brings order into our lives. Unity co-founder Myrtle Fillmore was the epitome of aligning her thoughts with spirit, with the divine. For those of you who may not be familiar with her story, Myrtle had been sickly. She was married to Charles Fillmore, also the co-founder of Unity. She'd been sickly all of her life. What she had was considered tuberculosis. And at that time, there was no cure. No cure. And she became so sickly that she was bedridden. Couldn't do anything. Couldn't do anything at all. And she was given only a few months to live. Well, Charles and Myrtle went to hear a lecture by Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was a New Thought lecturer and author. When Myrtle heard these words in the lecture, "You are a child of God, and you do not inherit sickness." You are a child of God and do not inherit sickness. So what Myrtle did for the next several years was she practiced prayer and meditation. The key was it was not beseeching prayer. She did not say, "God, heal me." She did not say, "God, if you take this disease from my body, I will honor your glory forever." Nay, that is not what she said. That is not what she did. She sat down and she said, "The totality of me is made up of individual parts and pieces. And each of these cells, each of these molecules, each of these atoms have an order. They have a structure. They are held together and they function massively together. There is an intelligence behind this order. And because they are perfect in divine order, I'm going to bless each and every one of these individual components that make up the whole, because they are perfect. They are made in the image and likeness, if you will, in that same energy, in that same structure, in that same order. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight. But it did happen. She was cured. Her health improved. And she was able to get out of bed and start moving again. And what came about was her understanding and implementation and manifestation of the phrase, "Be still and know." Be still and know. Yes, there's a second phrase of that. That I am God. many that used to come to this ministry, this church over the years, found it difficult to accept that the whole phrase, "Be still and know I am God." And that's okay. We are here today to help understand that we have the potential. We have that potential. And I'm going to get to that in just a minute. This entire process of relocating to a new space, coming to the understanding that this physical building is not in divine order for this congregation. I will tell you that for the past 2 years, it has been difficult. It has been extremely difficult to consider that divine order was in our lives, in this ministry. Now, many of you may not know, as the director of operations here at Unity of Melbourne, I was the one tasked with managing this. And I say this, it's much more than just a building. Managing this. And I will be completely honest. 8 months ago, I almost completely lost it. It was chaos because my will to ensure that this ministry survived and here's the key, in the status of what it was not in alignment with divine order. I was talking with my wife the other day, and we started reflecting. What changed? What changed in me that I went from no sleep, headaches, just being in a bad space, to finally getting into alignment? What happened? What was that transformation that clicked on that actually put me into that alignment? And I'll tell you, it didn't dawn on me until just the other day. I mentioned that Myrtle Fillmore manifested, "Be still and know." Be still and know. What the switch was for me, be still to know. I had to understand that I had the capacity, I had the ability to know and to align with divine order. That was the switch for me that took me on a path of working with the board of trustees to bring up to the membership, we need to change. We need to look at this ministry differently. The church, the ministry, Unity of Melbourne is not a building. It is not property. And this board made great strides in resisting the temptation to come before this congregation and say, we need money to keep in this building. We need. The reason they didn't is they realized unity principles, that substance is present everywhere. It may not look like the way we want to see it, but universal substance is there. All we have to do is ask for it. We don't go out and ask for a mortgage to be paid off. We don't ask for a $50,000 check. We ask for a place that we can congregate, that we can come together in spirit, in harmony, with wonderful music and fellowship, and hear these teachings. And yes, the board said yes. The membership said yes. And then the fun part comes. How do we make this happen? I'm a systems engineer by trade. So the first thing I did the moment the membership meeting was over and the congregation, the membership agreed, yes, do what's necessary to put us on a financial path. And that was to list the building for sale. That was. So that afternoon, I'm in my office and I'm starting to go through, Joseph, go ahead and bring it up. I made a Gantt chart. There were 172 items on that Gantt chart. That is what the beginning of what it took. Now, this is an example. And the reason I say it's an example, because after going through 5 or 6 pages of notebook paper, writing down all the things that had to be done, I sat back and looked at it and said, how am I going to put this how am I going to actually create a Gantt chart? People were actually asking, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? What can I do to help? Well, how well do you know Microsoft Project? That's what I thought. How well do you know Asana, which is another project management software? Not many people did. So what I did was I said, I have a high degree of confidence that when I align myself with Spirit, because Spirit's in charge, I am just manifesting in human form what it is. I know what has to be done. I know that we need to contact a realtor. I know that we need to do this. We need to do that. We need to do all of these various things. And if I write it out, I've just now lost a lot of time that I could actually be productive. So what I did and what I have done throughout this whole thing, go ahead and black it out, is that I'm trusting Spirit. Go ahead and bring that one up. Go ahead, Joseph, bring it up. You'll see that on the left side, there is the spiritual nature of order. And on the right-hand side, there's the human aspect. And as we go through the organization and the balance and the sequencing and adjusting, where am I in that stage? Am I more human? Am I more spiritual? And there are times when I'm a taskmaster. Dagnabbit, the first contract that we had on the building fell through. Blah, 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 blah. All right? I'm out of balance. I'm a little angry because now my schedule doesn't work because somebody else didn't do what they needed to do. Okay, time to shift. Time to shift. Time to adjust. Time to change the sequence. it goes on and on and on for those 172, and I think we're probably up to about 240 things right now. But the point is that by releasing the need to make our will for this congregation look like it wants to be, by aligning with divine order, by aligning with divine order. I am reminded, Randy, don't forget this. Don't forget that. Oh, yeah. Because of that connection. Is it a voice? Is it a knowing? Is it an understanding? Yes, it is. But it's that connection. It's being still and know. Being still and understanding. Being still and adjusting. And being in balance with the divine in that knowing. And everything is coming together on this move. It is. Not in spite of any one thing. It's because you as a congregation, the board as the responsible parties, and those of us in staff and the volunteers that are making this happen, we're not pushing a rope. We're not pushing a rope. We're letting it unfold as it needs to unfold. We're not burying our heads in the sand. We are allowing it to unfold and adjusting as we need to. So, Joseph, we know how God makes us laugh. So how do we make God laugh? We tell God our plans. God, this is what I want. Most importantly, and the way things actually work are, be still to know. Be still to know the awareness. Be still to know that connection. Be still to know that each one of us are capable. Be still to know that each and every single one of you are divine. Thank you.